My talk today is Father, forgive them, which Jesus also said on the cross as we're finishing up or not finishing up, we've got one more week of our series, The Scope of Forgiveness. And Jesus had a lot to say up there. This is not all. Each of the different books talks about what he says, but even in spite of the physical trauma he was going through, he had a lot to say. But the important thing, I think, for us today, the relevance of this for us today, is to remember that he maintained his connection to Source throughout this whole week this whole month of study that we've been doing, and all the different stories that Reverend Lee and I have been sharing. He remained connected to Source throughout it all, and he was forgiving of everyone that betrayed him, everything that happened. And it's important that we can remember that in our own lessons on forgiveness. He forgave the robber that was crucified next to him, and he asked that God forgive those who put him on the cross, who had beaten him, and then bet to see who got his clothes. So a bunch of stuff was happening. A whole bunch of stuff was happening. And he was still talking to God. And not in a bad way like we might. Why did you let this happen to me? Right? He wasn't doing that. He wasn't doing that. He was still reaching out and still forgiving and still staying connected to what was important. The story of his final conversations on the cross show us the power of forgiveness in the heat of the moment. In the heat of the moment. And that's really what I want to talk about this morning is how can we learn to forgive in the heat of the moment so that we don't have to go back and do the forgiveness work and carry the burden and the pain and the suffering and all that goes along with things that we hold on to and don't forgive. How can we forgive in the moment? So we're going to look at that. I think he's a great example for us to consider the next time that we're facing a difficult or challenging situation. Now, is what I'm talking about easy? Absolutely not. It is not easy because we're emotional beings, and when we feel a challenge or something coming up for us, we are activated in our fight or flight programming. And we all have programmed responses that we go to. Some of us just get big and bold and we're going to fight off the world every time we're challenged with anything. Some of us shrink away or leave or run away. Maybe we try to negotiate our way out of it. Maybe we have a mechanism where we start telling stories and trying to distract or something else. We all have a mechanism that is our go-to in those situations. Now, you've heard Reverend Lee and I mention several times that when we pick a topic, that we usually get to experience it throughout the week as we're preparing, and this week was no different. I had lots of opportunities to practice forgiving in the moment. Forgiving in the moment. I got to forgive while the person cut me off in traffic. I got to forgive while the coworker berated me. I got to forgive when someone did something I really didn't like. I got to practice in all of those. And I'll confess, I failed many times. I didn't get there instantly. But I did begin to get the hang of it, and I want to share that with you. Our emotions are powerful. Do you agree? Our emotions are very powerful. And of course, during this week of opportunity, I experienced many of them: anger, fear, frustration, judgment, blame. I wouldn't feel this way if you didn't do that, right? Yeah. So I finally laughed and realized, hey, these are your opportunities to forgive in the moment. Oh, great. Wait a minute. How do I do that? How do I do that? Ernest Holmes is the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, and he's the author of The Science of Mind that we teach from. And he says it is necessary that we release all thoughts as well as things that clutter up our lives. In the course of our lives, most of us have already claimed quite enough baggage that we need to heal. So why would we allow anything new to come into our minds that we're going to hold on to that we then have to do our forgiveness work on in the future. One of the practices that I used this week was to reframe the situation. Now, you're probably familiar with that. You've heard, you're driving down the road and somebody speeds up really fast and passes you and then cuts in front of you. And, oh, well, maybe they're an emergency physician on their way to the hospital and they've got a patient that needs them really badly. I forgive them. You've all heard of that kind of framing, right? So we have those, but I wanted to play with that a little bit more. How can I do this? How can I reframe? Could I catch myself? Could I actually catch myself when I feel those emotions rising, when I feel that upset coming on? Can I catch myself, not suppress it, catch it and transform that energy into something else? Is that possible? What I found is that I needed to trick my mind. I needed to trick my mind. Our minds love questions and problems, right? Problem solving, want to noodle on something. So what I had to do was distract my mind from the emotional rising that was coming and give it something else to think about and work on. One situation that I used this in was a coworker. And she came over in the afternoon to share a gift with me, to share her venting and frustration over a new relationship with a new consulting firm. It was some powerful frustration. Came across as downright angry. And it felt like it was at me. So my fight or flight began to come up, right? I wanted to resist it, push back against it, argue with it. But I caught it. In the nick of time, I caught it. And I asked the question, why is she so angry? Why is she so angry? Why is she so frustrated? And I realized it really had nothing to do with me, so I was able to begin to diffuse that emotion of a feeling of being attacked. Had nothing to do with me. She was only sharing her out of control and very unproductive anger and frustration. What a gift. So I began then to listen for evidence. What's this really about? What is this really about? Is this just the growing pains of establishing a new relationship? Yeah, it's not doing the way we used to do it. We don't operate the way they do, blah, blah. Was it that, or was there something more there where I really needed to pay attention, take this information, and then go back to the consultants and talk to them and try to work something out? And I realized that no, this is just growing pains. This is just growing pains. There's nothing serious here. I also looked for ways that I could mentor her and help her through this anger that she was unable to control. So my brain has something else to work on. So I've got other things to work on. So my emotions are kind of forgotten now. So I've caught it. I've caught it. I stopped taking it personally and making it about me. Because that's what I did. She came over and was really big and loud and angry, and I took it personally. It's about me. Because that's what we do, isn't it? When someone's yelling, someone's fussing, somebody cuts us off in traffic, somebody does something unkind, they don't hold the door for us, we just know they woke up this morning. I don't like preachers. I don't like redheads. I don't like realtors. And I really don't like people that drive Lexus. So I'm going to look for one of those today and I'm going to cut them off on the freeway. It's my mission in life. People don't think like that, do they? But we take it that way. Oh my gosh, they did it to me. They did it to me. We get offended easily. We get offended. Jesus, in his most difficult moments, he was focusing on everybody else around him, wasn't he? He was focusing on everybody else around him rather than what was actually physically happening to him. He talked to God. He calmed the disciples when they wanted to attack the guards that were arresting him. He forgave everyone. And he completely surrendered and left us with the great example of let go and let God. Let go and let God. So when I tried this practice of reframing for the first time, it took a while to feel that shift, to feel that energy transform. I was alone and driving in the car, and I was having a chat with myself. You ever had an angry chat with yourself, work through something? Something had happened, I wasn't happy about it. So I had to talk myself through, get through that anger. And I guess as I had that aha moment and I laughed about it, this is another one of those opportunities that I got something clicked. You know, you have that click that's like, I get it. Okay, I get it. I get it. And that happened. So I think when I had this experience later in the same day, things come quick, later in the same day, that I was able to to find that again and to recognize I could reframe again. So practice is important. When I left the office that day, I didn't take any new baggage with me. I didn't take any new baggage. I wasn't angry with her. I wasn't frustrated with her. I didn't own her frustration. I wasn't mad at the consultants. I just took my own calm and my own peace and got in my car and drove home. In the past, when this has happened, and it happens a lot, I've been angry all the way home. And I came home, shared that gift with Ron. But in this case, I was able to diffuse that. I was able to diffuse that. And you can too, because we can transform that emotional energy into something else. Catching ourselves in the moment and changing what we think about what is happening. Because isn't that really what it's all about, is what we think about what is happening? It's not necessarily about what's happening, it's what we think about it, right? Two people can see the same thing going on and have totally different reactions to it because they're thinking about it differently, they're experiencing it differently. When we can do that, it allows us to no longer clutter our minds and keep collecting things. Like Ernest said, we have to declutter. It frees us then to live in more peace. The Greek word for forgiveness means set free, let go, release, discharge, or liberate completely. What are we setting free and liberating completely? Ourselves, right? Ourselves. In the past, I've allowed this coworker's outburst to anger and frustrate me because I want her to be different. How many times do we let that little emotion ruin our day? I want her to be different. I want him to be different. I want the situation to be different. I want the circumstances to be different. If it'd just be different, I'd be happy. Am I the only one? Okay, just checking. Science Mind teaches us to look away from conditions which now exist while accepting better ones. Look away from conditions which now exist while accepting better ones. This doesn't mean temper tantrums and rants against what is, demanding it to be different, telling our friends all about how awful it is. It means acknowledging the conditions and circumstances in our lives while at the same time accepting, believing, and making welcome better conditions. I don't know if you've heard the definition of genius is holding two conflicting thoughts at the same time and not going crazy. We're all geniuses in the science of mind because this is our teaching, right? We have to look away from the condition which now exists while accepting at the same time better conditions. We turn our energy away from the condition. We don't continue to resent it, to be angry about it, to be frustrated about it, to want it to be different. We turn away while we're affirming our good is arriving. And this is where most of us get in trouble. We love to talk about the problems, don't we? We spend 15 minutes in our meditation time, and then the rest of the day telling everybody how bad it is. Ain't it awful? Let me tell you what the doctor told me. Let me tell you how I lost my job and what bad person my boss is. Let me tell you about how bad this is or that is. We can't do that while accepting the good. While accepting the good. We get stuck in the what is. But wishing that conditions are different is not the same as accepting better ones. Wishing conditions are different is not the same as accepting, knowing, and just absolutely believing that better conditions exist. It's easy to see the negative stuff, isn't it? Health issues, financial challenges, lack of employment, relationship issues, spiritual meltdown. It's definitely more challenging to keep our attention and conversation on accepting better ones. But we have to do that. That's our work to do in order to change the conditions. And this is where our prayer partners, our practitioners, and our ministers can help us to see and to hold a vision for these better conditions. We use our spiritual tools to help us accept better conditions. Because it's easy to think that there's not better conditions, that this is as good as it gets, that we're stuck, this is all it's going to ever be. We need support. And fortunately, this community is full of support. Prayer partners, practitioners, ministers, fellow congregants. You know when you come in here that there's somebody here you can talk to. There's somebody here that will support you. Don't you? That's the importance of community. We're a safe harbor from the negativity of the world. We offer resources that can help us to fill our spiritual toolbox so that we get better at the job of living. You know, beyond the legacy of forgiveness and the connection to God that Jesus left us, he also left us that great commandment, love one another. And he also left us the example of the importance of community, surrounding ourselves with individuals that can be with us in the hard times. My heart filled when Colette told me about her success in completing her programs. And the peace and compassion and kindness and the love that she brings to that process, those final moments of life. That's what we do here. Every moment of life, we are here for each other. When we can stay connected spiritually with each other, we can continue to heal and to grow and together create a world that works for all. Because that's our work, isn't it? It's to become the best we can be so that we can help the rest of the world. So this week, let's catch our emotions. Let's get out of our heads, out of the habits of taking things so personally, and look outward and see how we can love more and help those around us. If you'd like to study more about these principles, I invite you to sign up for Mindful Monday. It's a newsletter that comes out every Monday that's a recap of our talk. Reverend Lee or I send out. You can sign up with a QR code, send me an email, or in the lobby, and we'll get you on that list. Your spiritual practice for this week is clean out the clutter. Clean out the clutter. Look around your home and clean out at least one area of clutter. A closet, a drawer, a garage, your car, desk, whatever it might be. And then notice how you feel, how you physically feel when it's all clean. And then take that practice right into your mind. Take that feeling into your mind. Pay attention to negative, judgmental, or angry thoughts that clutter your mind and begin to clean them out as well and replace them. Remember, we can't leave a void. Replace them with thoughts of how you can be more loving, more forgiving, and not take things personally. It gets us in trouble all the time. Record your thoughts in your journal. So this week, let's remember that almost nothing that happens to us is really about us. And practice reframing. And remember, we always can let go and let God. And so it is. And now it's your turn. Questions or comments about reframing or forgiveness? Lori.
I'm really intrigued about, excuse me, this idea of transforming emotions by changing the thought response.
Say that again.
You spoke about transforming emotions by changing the thought response.
Yes.
So I'm with you in your car.
Oh, you're with me?
I'm with you. The emotion comes in. And I understand the interplay between the mind and the emotions and the mind, and they go together and each does the other. But what I want to know is what happens to the emotions, those molecules that are created from the initial feeling, if they aren't felt and fully digested and released. Where do they go in this process? What happens?
Beautiful. We know that energy is never destroyed, it is only transformed, right? So those emotions are energy that are coming up. What we're doing is transforming them to a different type of energy. Alchemy. Yeah, we're transforming them to a different type of energy. So the energy that's coming up of emotion that wants to come out and be expressed like this, we're saying, take that to my brain, give the brain a challenge, a new thought to reframe and to process and to think differently about. So that energy goes here as opposed to there. Try it and let me know how it works or doesn't work. I definitely don't, I'm not suggesting suppressing in any way, okay? That's not what this is about. This is truly about transformation from one type of energy to another.
How do you know that you're doing that instead of a substitute?
A substitute.
Putting the emotions down and just getting all in your head and thinking things away.
Practice. Yeah. For me, it was, I feel it in my body. If I feel emotion coming up that I'm in fight or flight, and I'm stuffing it, I feel a nervousness in my body. That energy is very active and moving in my body. Whereas in this situation where I had transformed it, I was really calm. I mean, I was completely no tension anywhere. I was completely calm. So that's how I know the difference, that it's been transformed, is the physical feeling within the body. Okay. Diane.
Thank you. I think for me, it happens more gradually. I mean, I can remember hundreds of hours having dialogue in the shower with people in my head that was never going to take place and that never needed to anyway. But seriously, and now I can get in the shower and think, oh, most of the time. So I think part of it is taking myself, that ego out of it. It is not about me. And like my brother came through here in a hurry a couple of weeks ago, stopped briefly for lunch at my sister's and kept going to see one of his sons was ill in California. So now he's coming back Monday and he's staying at my house. And I'm like, for the first time, I didn't get upset. I just thought, oh, I'm so sorry this is happening. It's not about me and blah, 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 blah. But that would be unusual because it's my big brother and we're closer in age and it's mine. So, but anyway, I think the difference in transforming it, now I still have some of those thoughts when they come in, and they're usually judgmental. I'm usually judging somebody. And then I laugh because I think, how many times have I done something, if not exactly like that? I had a better excuse for doing it. So it's just a joke. It really is. It happens really gradually for me. And I get to be this age and have that. And I'm so grateful for being here and having this to remind me that we're all so alike. We all have those moments and we all care so much. So thank you.
Thank you.
I had an experience with that this week. And what I found is when I got on the phone with this person, I needed to give him a piece of my mind. Damn it. And just, he was taking advantage of me. So I need to speak my truth and get it all out. And he tried interrupting me. Nope, stop. You're going to let me talk right now. And I realized that when I was in this angry state and acting like a bully is really what it was, I wasn't listening to anything that was really going on in this whole situation. And so I realized that I was just really making a fool of myself, and realized that because I kept trying to cut him off when he was trying to clarify things, I missed the whole point, and I got the price wrong of what I thought I was going to be charged and what he was actually going to charge me. So I just really felt so humbled and felt like such a fool. So I know how those fight or flight things can just get you all riled up and just feel like, I got to say my peace of mind, and why? All I was doing was embarrassing myself. So
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Jane.
I hate to bring this up, but politics. I'm just getting more and more worried about this whole country. What's going to happen? That's it. And I'm bitter.
Okay. All right. And that is, we're in an election year, right? Everybody knows we're in an election year. It's going to get crazier. But when I was thinking about it, because that was almost in my talk today, and what came up was Ernest's quote about how as long as we focus on evil, evil will be present. Not saying that politics is evil, but we complain about crooked politicians. We complain about crooked politicians and this, and that, the other. As long as we keep doing that, what are we doing? We're feeding it. So when we can quit doing that and get ourselves into trusting that God is all there is, and we can hold our thought on better conditions and not complaining about the condition that we don't like, when we can do that, and we collectively all do that in this country, things will change. Things will change. They simply will have to. We have seen it historically over time. If you look at a long timeline, slavery in this country was okay until it wasn't. Women couldn't vote in this country until that wasn't okay anymore either. Equal rights, civil rights, all the things that have happened have been okay until they weren't okay and they had to change. The change occurred in consciousness. And the same thing will happen in our political system when we change our consciousness around it. But we've got to stop focusing on the problem and focusing on what the solution and what we prefer instead. Well said. All right.
Hi, my name's Eric. It's never about me, you said. Never, ever is it about me. So if I think that it is about me, is it such that I'm in a space where I am not connected to the divine within and that I'm being selfish in a sense and not projecting out the love? Is that true, or is it sometimes about me?
I think we could get into specifics and ferret that out a little more clearly, but what I was referring to about it not being about us is how we take ownership of so many things that really aren't specifically about us. We get mad at a stranger who didn't hold the door for us as we were coming in, and they were right in front of us and they just closed it in front of us. We get offended by that. It really wasn't about us. They were distracted about something else. Something was going on in their world. We just happened to be in the flow of their life. There could be things about us that, let's say we're not performing on a job and we're not getting our work done, we're hanging out on Facebook, we're shopping on Amazon, we're not doing our work, and we get reprimanded or even terminated for that. And that's kind of about us. Because of our behavior, we have now put ourselves in a situation where we're not providing the service we're being paid for, so we're let go. So that is about us, but it's about what our actions have been that have created and caused that. The things that I was talking about are really where we take ownership of. I'll use the word random. I know some of you are going to object to that. Random things that happen to us, and take ownership of that. And that's an ego thing, thinking because we're the center of our own universe.
If we're centered in the heart and these things are happening, then they just happen.
It's right off our back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Good question. Thank you. Anyone else?
I will just express my gratitude for the overall subject of forgiveness this month. And I like how you said again that forgiveness is for me, it's for us. And that's just really pertinent. It's something that has been relevant for me recently as I'm working through continuing to forgive my family and my mom especially. And I understand that it's for me, so that's not holding me back anymore. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Katie. Forgiveness is always for us. And it doesn't mean that we necessarily forget. It doesn't mean we don't take the lessons that have been presented in the way they've been presented. And it doesn't mean that there's not still healing within us. Forgiveness is letting go of the suffering that we're creating within ourselves around those thoughts and memories. And letting go is the release and the peace that we get. It doesn't mean that we approve of what happened. And that's where we get sometimes mixed up, that if I forgive them, that means I condone or approve of what happened. And that is not the case. We can still keep that separate. It just means that we don't. It's like I was talking with Lori, the transformation of the emotion is what we're doing. We're transforming that emotion of unforgiveness into the freedom of forgiveness. Anyone else?
Actually,
Yes.
this just reminds me of something. So, this reminds me of something that I've been taught and learned through like various personal development programs and things that I've gone through. And it brings me back to this idea of accepting what is. And like you said, it doesn't mean that we can condone the actions, but just the human psychology of getting the story straight of what actually happened. Like a stranger didn't hold the door for us, or, and I mean, that's a fairly easy thing, but some sort of drama that's happened in your life, and you have this whole story about what this person did, why they did it, what they thought about you at the time, and realizing that there's a story that we create about things that happen. And then there's also just, okay, what actually happened on this day? This person showed up or they didn't show up, or what, just breaking down like the actual physical actions, and then I got mad because I thought they didn't want to see me, or, whatever. And so this collapsing of these two different things, which are the things that that actually happened and the things that you told yourself about what it meant.
Yeah.
And so it just brings me back to, I'll sum it up as accepting what is. Not that you like it, but just being able to, for your own, and this is where I struggled for a long time with this idea of forgiveness is for yourself and not other people. And it's like, oh, that sounds great, but what does that really mean? And for myself, if I think of it as accepting what is, like being able to separate what I know physically happened in the world and what I thought about it, allows me to have the clarity to address it. Like, I don't have to like it, but I can at least have a clear mind to address whatever the thing is, what I didn't like about it. And then I can actually see for the future, like, what would I like to see instead? So you just reminded me of all that. So
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That's why it's important that we clean things up as quickly as we can and don't let them fester, because that's when the story starts, when we allow things to fester. So clean it up immediately. I had a situation with Steve last week that I made a comment, and I realized quickly thereafter that that comment wasn't exactly correct, and I went back and I cleaned it up immediately. It's like, no, let me clarify this. This is really what happened. It was not quite the right timeline. Beverly. And then we got to wrap up here.
One real quick one. Thank you for sharing. That really is a deep-rooted aspect from in the way I've been trying to evolve my life and think clearer about understanding what other people are really thinking. But the other thought that just came to mind is about finding what would you love instead. That's a key one for me. And like when I had an experience a couple weeks ago. I had a service person that was supposed to show up, and I sat there for 4 hours, 6 hours, and no show, not a phone call or anything. And I'm so angry when I wasted my time. How rude! And I thought, whoa, what if he was in an accident? I sure hope he's healthy. I hope he's safe, And I've been training myself to jump over the fence. And what would I love? What would he love? When you're in a car and somebody cuts you off, or whatever, you get pissed off and angry and fearful, but oh my gosh, they're having a rough day. I sure hope they get home safely. I hope they calm down.
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
What would you love instead?
I love that. I've quoted Beverly many times with that. What would I love more? What would I love best? Thank you all. You are such wonderful, wonderful beings of light, and your sharing is always so powerful. I appreciate you so much. Shall we take it into some prayer? All right. As we move within, we recognize that there is one life. That life is God. It is the infinite intelligence, wisdom, power. It is the allness of the all. It is that which is created in the Creator. And it is in, through, and as all of its creation. And all of it is here now, present in this room, in, through, and as each one of us, as expressions of it. We are that love, light, and joy, the peace, the prosperity, the wisdom that God is. For we live, move, and have our being in spirit. And every time we grow, move, and evolve, spirit giggles, because it's more of God expressing uniquely through each one of us, individualized. And so knowing that's who and what we are, I speak my word for and about each of us. As we allow ourselves to remember that we always walk with the presence of the divine, no matter what's occurring in our lives, no matter what we're dealing with, no matter what the circumstance is, we always walk with the presence. We know that our emotions are guiding and guarding us always. And we know too that we have the power of our mind to transform those emotions when they least serve us into something that serves us more. I know as we clean out and remove the clutter from our minds and our physical presence, that it is transformed into something new as we replace those thoughts and things that clutter our lives with things that empower us, things that inspire us, things that uplift us, so that we can go forward into the world as a beneficial presence to each and every person that we come into contact with, that we uplift them, we shine our light brightly upon them. And just for a moment, they feel transformed. We are here as a power for good, and we share that with all that we meet. I know for anyone that has anything on their heart today that they seek prayer around, as they lift it into this consciousness of this prayer set here now this morning, that each of us lifts them in consciousness, knowing the wholeness and perfection of them. Whatever needs to be healed is revealed. Whatever needs to be circulated flows. Whatever needs to be experienced is called forth with ease and with grace. It is with a grateful heart full of thanksgiving and gratitude that I release this prayer into the action of universal law, knowing that it is made manifest in this moment for each and every one of us, as we collectively affirm and accept this together by saying, and so it is.